So my dream was to go special forces. I'm too weak for that. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to give up on that dream, I'm going to pursue another dream. And that dream was to create a production company like Happy Madison Productions. And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to start a production company one day. I'm going to staff it with my friends and family, and we're going to make comedies, funny TV shows and movies for a living.
You're listening to the 7 Echo Podcast, brought to you by 7 Eagle Group, the place where we highlight inspiring and interesting United States military veterans who have found a successful civilian career after trading in their uniforms.
Welcome to 7 Echo Podcast. I am your host, Heather Clark, and I am here today with the coolest leader in our veteran community, Mr. Donny O'Malley. Thank you for coming on, Donny. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm good. A little busy, but we're still good.
Yeah, that's awesome. We missed you in Key West. I was looking really forward to meeting in person, but we all persevered. We all had a really good time, and it was kind of a quirky trip for many of us. It started off, I flew into Fort Lauderdale that morning or that week. We packed up the car like 4:30 and the car didn't start.
Oh.
So we're like, okay, we can adapt, right? I'm with a bunch of Marines. We adapt, you get another car. We get down to Key West, and then the hotel or the guest house we went to never upgraded the room. So I'm there with my baby brother, who's a Marine, and his girlfriend, and there's this little teeny tiny room with one bed. And I'm like, bro, I love you, but we can't all share one bed. So eventually we found me a room, and yeah, everything worked out though, but it was a interesting start to the hike weekend, but we all had a great time and we all missed you so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for the kind words. Missing a hike is always painful, but especially when I'm right there.
I know, I can imagine. You can reach out and touch us.
Yes, I'm looking on Facebook Live and I see people are walking together, probably within 2 miles of me. And I just had to, both Las Vegas and the next week, I had to avoid everybody.
Oh, that's too bad. So hopefully next year that won't be the case, and we can definitely get together at a hike and hang out. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes, please.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, tell the audience kind of where you grew up, what made you decide to join the Marines, all that good stuff.
Okay. So I was born in New York, lived there in Queens and Long Island for the first 9 years, then moved to North Carolina. Dad went to medical school, joined the Navy. So spent my summers at Camp Lejeune for 4 years, and then the rest of the year was in Chapel Hill. So it was a really cool childhood, and then moved to San Diego when I was 12, almost 13, and have been here ever since. I had wanted to be a Marine ever since I was a little kid. And I don't remember if my first memory of thinking to myself, like, oh my God, I have to do that, was actually watching Vietnam War movies. Way too young.
Way too young, yes.
And all of the Vietnam War movies, at least up until, well, actually now I think about probably all of them, but at that time, they were all horrible tragedies. There's Born on the 4th of July, Platoon, and Hamburger Hill. Mm-hmm. Right. So this is stuff where everyone's getting killed. Whole entire companies are getting smoked. And I was watching and I was like, oh my God, I need to be a Marine. Right. Like that was a sign.
That was a sign for things to
come. And yeah, I just loved the idea of being in a CH-46 helicopter with U.S. Marines on the side and flying into a hot LZ and landing and then getting out and advancing towards an enemy that's already bunkered up. I'm like, I have to do that one day. And I kind of did. I didn't come in under fire, but I I got to do, the vision almost became completely true. So very fortunate for that. And so anyway, yeah, so I always knew that I was going to join, and I always knew that I was going to do it for just a short period of time. I never wanted a career in the Marine Corps. I just wanted that experience.
Right.
I wanted war. And if I didn't have war, I just wanted to be happy being a Marine and doing training and doing war stuff.
Doing cool stuff, blowing stuff up.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, so that was always the dream. And my dad convinced me to do it as an officer. He did not want me going enlisted, because my dad was actually an infantry officer first before he joined the Navy as a doctor. And he's just very adamant, become an officer. When 9/11 hit, he was begging me not to go in. He's like, trust me, just finish the degree and then go if you really want it. The war will still be there. And he was right. And he was trying really hard to get me to not go, because he was, as a doctor of Balboa Hospital. Even before we went to war in 2001, there was a lot of Navy SEALs, because Coronado's right next door. So the SEALs came in there, and he saw the little bit that of the tragedy of war from the SEALs in his hospital. But then after the wars kicked off, his hospital was full of blown up Marines. So he tried hard to get me not to go.
I bet.
All the way until 2009, when I finally joined. I got the infantry officer spot, and then did 2 deployments, one MU to Southeast Asia. And then the second one was Afghanistan in 2012. So I got my war fix, and then I came back really broken. And I was never hit by enemy fire, but I started breaking very early on in my training, and I just never stopped. And I literally hid from the doctors at times, because I didn't want to miss the war. I didn't want to get rolled back in training.
Which a lot of guys do.
Yeah. So after my second deployment, my ankle was like dangling off, my foot was dangling off my leg. It was really, really bad. And then I had an MRI scheduled the next day after arriving. And sure enough, they're just like, how are you walking on this? This doesn't make sense. And I had a surgery, a complete ankle reconstruction, and then went to Wounded Warrior Battalion. And then I had my another shoulder done twice, and then was medically retired. So that was my military experience. I was very, very fortunate to get out the way that I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people, including myself, and chicks definitely are into war too. From the time I was 12 when I saw Top Gun, I was absolutely going to be a maverick and a pilot, and I always had that passion to join as well. And I think all of us that join, it's not just that we like to go and ride in helicopters and blow stuff up, but we also have service hearts, and we want to serve, in some capacity. Did you find that when you got out that it was hard to transition to being a civilian again?
No. There was, well, I say that my no is relative to others. So for one, I had the great fortune of an amazing family and social network here in San Diego that I didn't build my family. My parents built the family, but I built a large social network starting from when I was 12. And then when I was in college, I was president of my fraternity twice. And then I was a personal trainer by the beach. And so I had a giant network of friends. Mm-hmm. So that was very fortunate. But then combined with, I had time while I was in Wounded Warrior Battalion to create plans for myself. And I decided that, so my dream was to go Special Forces. I'm too weak for that. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to give up on that dream, I'm going to pursue another dream. And that dream was to create a production company like Happy Madison Productions. And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to start a production company one day. I'm going to staff it with my friends and family, and we're going to make comedies funny TV shows and movies for a living, or tell the stories of my family. So that was my North Star that has guided me since 19. All this other stuff were just things that I had to do on the way there. But once I realized that there was no better life for me that would provide more happiness, then it's just like, well, I don't give a fuck how hard it is. Like, that's what I must do, or I will never be proud of myself if I don't actually strive for my dreams. And so I was also fortunate that I identified that somewhat early on. And so I started writing. I started a blog, I started writing stories. They weren't very good at first. They were funny, but not well written. I started taking classes, started taking some filmmaking classes at a community college. And I spent almost every waking hour of the day in the pursuit of the goals that I set out for myself. And so I was focused. I was very disciplined, and all I did was research all of the things. So like the goal was a production company. The way to get there was to write books. So I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write books. I'm going to build an audience, and then I'm going to save the money, and I'm going to start making short films and then bigger films, and I'll have my production company. So then it's like, okay, I'm writing a book. Well, what do I need to do? So then I start back planning and just researching all day. Just all these other people have written books. I'm like, what did they do? How did they find success? And I just studied what other people did. Okay, I'll do that, and that. Built my plan. Had to make a website. I'm studying digital cameras. I'm studying photography, lighting, kits. Then I started doing, digital video, editing. I studied all the things I wanted to know that would bring me to my goals. And that's what I did in Wounded Warrior Battalion for a year and a half before I got out. So now I get out, I know what I want to do. I've learned a ton of the things. I already started my blog. I already started posting, developed an audience, and I have a good support network. I moved in with my grandmother. I moved in to take care of her, but it ended up working out great for me too. So,
well, she's hilarious.
Yeah. She's the best.
She's great.
She's the best. So for me, my transition, I think relative to most, was great. But part of what took me several years I still had certain things needed to continue transitioning. And a lot of it was that really unhealthy infantry mindset, which is all about destruction. It's very abrasive. It's painful. I didn't have any tolerance for weakness. Like if anyone was being a little bit weak, I hated them. And to this day, I actually really, really, really dislike weakness, but I don't hate it like I used to. I used to just look at, as soon as I saw someone being a little pathetic, I'd be like, that's disgusting. I don't want to fucking look at them anymore. And that's not normal, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't care about other people's feelings that much. Like if I
having
empathy, none of that shit. It was just like, what is the mission ahead of me? And am I pushing towards that as fast as possible? And so also abrasiveness and aggressiveness. It's been a process weeding all of that shit out of my personality. But I identified what is healthy and what is not. And I've been getting rid of what is not ever since. And I think I'm pretty clear. But for a while, I did have trouble, argue. I was very confrontational. Like I wouldn't hesitate to get in someone's face and argue, whether it was verbal argument or throw hands. And so it caused me a lot of pain, but none of it was too bad. And it was all relationship based. Like I was hurting the relationships with the people around me because I didn't have empathy and because I was so aggressive and confrontational. Mm-hmm. And once I kind of fixed that shit, then I fixed my relationships magically. But otherwise, I think relative to most, my transition was a piece of cake, but I outlined my own struggles as a part of that transition.
Right. And so how was Irreverent Warriors born out of that? Because you kind of did that first before you opened the production company, right?
Yep. So while I was in Wounded Warrior Battalion, I hung out with all the guys who were blown up and shot up. They were as dark as you can get in terms of sense of humor. Their sense of humor was the pinnacle of darkness and irreverent. It's because these guys had seen the worst of war, right? They got fucked up. And I noticed that they isolated themselves because they felt like nobody would understand them. And I observed that while I was in the unit. I'd hang out with these guys like in their barracks. All they did in their barracks was just watch funny YouTube videos or war porn. And so, a lot of which they found funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'd watch videos of Americans getting shot up and blown up and they'd laugh.
Well, because sometimes when you're in a traumatic situation, like for me, like in a car accident or something, I started laughing out loud.
Nice.
You know, I think it's almost like it's a natural defense mechanism your body has, like crying or shaking in a traumatic situation. Like you have to have a release, and laughing boosts your endorphins. So
yep,
I can see that.
Yeah. So I noticed that, and I'm like, there's a couple experiences I observed where I'm like, wow, these guys need a place where they can just be themselves, because they're not going to be in this barracks room forever. And I was just like, I'd love to just throw parties for these guys. And like, I've been throwing parties for my friends since I was 17. That was my full-time job from 17 until like, I don't know, 30. You know, what you see at Irreverent Warriors is what I've been doing with my buddies since I was 17. I find a bunch of really cool, funny people, bring them together, make sure they know that we're here to be nice to each other, laugh and have a good time. And then magic happens. Friendships get created that last for decades. There's this incredible environment and energy. Everyone comes into the party and they just, all of a sudden they feel energized and good, and they leave feeling better. And so I just thought, I want to do that for these guys. I tried doing it. I tried taking them to the wilderness, and it's just logistically, it just wouldn't happen because it's really, really hard. So then finally I was just like, tell my buddy who helped start it with me, Ryan Loya, I was like, yo, dude, let's just do a hike on the beach, and we'll stop at bars. We'll talk to girls. It'll be who won't have fun. We'll carry some weight on our backs so we feel some of that old grunt pain. And he was like, yes, but we got to do it in silkies. I was like, yes, that's the move. And that was the first hike. It was, let's just have a good time. That's it. And I thought it was just going to be 10 of my buddies I went to combat with. So the whole premise of Irreverent Warriors was, let's just get together and have a good time with some weight on our back. Behind the silkies hike, I'm sorry. Irreverent Warriors as a brand, I was trying to make it like a darker version of Duffel Blog. But after that first hike, there's amazing feedback. And a lot of the most amazing feedback came from guys who were not grunts and who had never even been to combat. And I started everything focused on combat grunts, or combat arms in combat. And all this, the feedback was just like, oh my God, I felt like I just went through a 12-hour therapy session. I can't believe how good I feel. I made so many friends. I felt so understood and blah, blah, blah. Some of them were active duty. And so I was like, wow, holy shit, there's something here. And then they started popping up thanks to some press across the country, and people are asking me to do it for them. And I started getting involved, and I'm like, well, I'm retired. And I had recently published my book, which I got that goal out of the way. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go to all of these hikes and just meet the people who are hosting them, because they want me there. It's a great time. Like, well, what the fuck else do I got to do with my time? I'm retired. And through that, I experienced the large scale power of the events. And I saw that this one thing that happened in San Diego is going on in even bigger numbers across the country. And the feedback was the exact same. The energy of the group was the exact same as San Diego. And then eventually my dad kind of challenged me, and he said, hey, you need to get these things under control, because these things back in the day, they were rowdy. I don't know if you went to any early hikes.
I heard about them. Yeah.
Oh, god damn. And it's so funny. It's all, it's so cheesy, but it's true. Like, it's a reflection of leadership. Like, back then I was rowdy. Back then I was still, a Marine grunt and chugging liquor and yelling and getting crazy and wrestling with guys. And so,
That's the culture.
Events, yeah, that was the culture. The events reflected. And then he's like, you need to get under control. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to take advantage of this thing. And I'm like, Dad, these are going to happen with or without me. I can't control what goes on. He was like, bullshit. With decent leadership, you can control a movement. And I was just like, challenge accepted. And so I incorporated it as a nonprofit. I reached out to a lot of the hike coordinators that I had met personally. And I said, hey, here's what I'm looking to do. I want to bring a sense of structure to these events. I want to ensure safety. I want to ensure a standard of quality. I want to make sure that the intention stays pure, and then people don't take advantage of it and try to make money off of it. Mm-hmm. And everyone that I pitched this to, they were like, absolutely, these hikes are saving lives. Let's fucking do it. So then I tried figuring out how to create the structure, the infrastructure of an organization. And that was a clusterfuck. But we did it because of a lot of amazing people who put a lot of time into, creating SOPs and managing money and managing conversations with volunteers that we really had no control over. There was no signed documents for anything. This is all handshake and phone call conversations.
Oh, old school. Yeah.
Yeah. That built it. And then now seeing what it is today, it's mind blowing.
Is it surreal? I bet, to kind of look back, and I mean, it's a national movement.
Yeah.
At this point, and thank God somebody sent me an email saying this past summer, like, hey, have you ever heard of these hikes? We should go on one. And the first time that I went on one, I was, Navy was my whole life. I was not just a sailor myself, I was also a military spouse. And so it was everything for my 20s and 30s. And then when I lost it for a decade, it was devastating. And so that first hike, I felt like I was back in the military. I felt like I had my family back. And something that I use in my yoga teaching, because I militarize yoga so that it's in a way like I teach it in drill sergeant mode. Basically, I call out dry fire, I do marching commands and stuff like that. Stuff that they've already been doing. They just didn't know they were doing yoga in the military. And vet speak is something that we use, that we know how to talk to each other. We know how to interact with each other. We have our own subculture. I saw that at that first hike. I was like, these are my people. Like, I've missed you for like the last 10 years. And I was like so energized after that first hike, and they become addictive. Yeah. Just like, when's the next hike? Like, when's the schedule out for the next year? Like, everybody's like psyched. And the amazing thing about that is it's genius on your part to find a way to bring us together and heal us through laughter. But like you said, all those connections you make, every hike you go on, your family expands. So that literally is saving lives, because when you have your dark moment, you have like this phone tree now of people like you can call and you can talk to. And I have so many people reach out to me because I'm posting like a million pictures at being at these hikes, and now I'm starting to teach yoga and stuff, before we step off, that people are like, hey, can you tell me more about this? Like, how do I find out about this? And now every time, I can't spell irreverent, but now every time I type in IRR to Google, the website comes up, because I'm sending it to so many people.
Yes.
And so I'm like a huge supporter. I would bend over backwards for the organization to do anything I can. And man, we just thank you so much.
Namaste.
And so that brings me, we're so fortunate that you you kept leading. You got out of the Marines as a leader. You're continuing to lead our community, and we're so fortunate to have you. Um, and that kind of leads me to my second question. You said active duty show up to this, and it's so cool because when I was at the Tucson hike, it was the first time I taught what I call the yogic as fuck class, basically, that I used to warm them up. And there was like 200 people out there. There's a ton of active duty out there. You know, we got through. I had so many guys come up to me, you know, because somebody be talking, I'd like yell at them. You know, they come up to me after, ma'am, I'm so sorry I was talking, you know, and that was so much fun. We didn't even know that was yoga. That was really cool. And so,
yes.
you know, if you had to tell anybody, like if you ran into an active duty person during these hikes and you had one piece of advice to give them if they were considering getting out, what would it be?
So they're thinking about getting out of the military. One piece of advice. Define exactly what you want out of the next 10 years of your life, and then devote 80% of every day towards making that happen.
Have your plan set.
Yeah. Most people don't know exactly what they want. And
including myself, I didn't.
Yeah. Just developing that vision. And it can change often, but you have to always have some goal that you're working towards that you gave yourself. Mm-hmm. I think it's dangerous in the military. People get force-fed goals and missions by the military, and the military holds them accountable. The military gives them the schedule. And so they're not used to setting goals for themselves. They're not used to developing their own vision and mission and goals. And so they get out and they're just kind of doing things. So developing that.
Finding a purpose.
Yes, your specific vision of your next 10 years. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Donny, for being here. I really appreciate you rescheduling and making sure that this interview happened. That meant a great deal to me.
Oh, totally.
And where can we find information about Irreverent Warriors and subscribe to Vet TV at?
Okay, so www.irreverentwarriors.com. That's how you find Irreverent Warriors. On there's a ton of information. Everything you would need to know about the organization is on there, but especially the hike schedule. And then, for Vet TV, you can download the Vet TV app on your phone, Apple or Droid, or Xbox or Roku, or you could just Google Vet TV, will be the top hit, or veterantv.tv, and check out our stuff. And I ask everyone who has served in the military to try it for at least just 1 month, because there's so much stuff on there that I can say at this point, we have something for everyone on there. There's many different types of shows and sketches, and it guaranteed that it will be worth at least $5. And if after that you've gone through all the shows and you're not laughing anymore, then feel free to cancel, and all you lost was $5. But I can guarantee that it will be worth that $5 if you scroll through that app and look for stuff that entertains you and makes you laugh. So I just want everyone to try it just once.
And the great thing about Vet TV that I have to say is two things. Is one, yes, it's going to make you laugh. Two, I think it's important. I heard you in an interview say that Hollywood has this picture of what war looks like, that it's pretty and it's always this heroic story. But you tell the truth of it, of what we know. And I think that's important to help us also process it. And I think that you bring out some really powerful storylines. I saw something recently with the advertisement for recruiting. Like you guys are like in the gym, you got your little table set up, and these high schoolers are giving you a hard time, and then an active shooter comes in. You know, you're flipping over the table, you're cocked and loaded and ready to go. He's like reloading, and I was like, that's really powerful. You know, maybe the public can't take our humor or understand it, but that was a powerful scene to me that stood out that I think the public needs to know because you know, I remember an award show where like Rick Jarvis was like cracking some pretty dark humor, and the actors in the audience are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that. But then the actors that are veterans were like, yeah, like I get that, you know. So I commend you on not just making us laugh, but bringing out some really powerful reality that the public needs to know about too. So thank you for your storytelling. It's really beautiful. But that ends our show today. Thank you, Donny, again for being here today. This is 7 Echo Podcast, sponsored by 7 Eagle Group. I am Heather Clark, your host, bringing you the stories of fellow veterans so that you too can build your own veteran network.